The drivers then on the circuit ready to go for the sprint race here in the Nations Cup. This is going to be hugely exciting to determine the grid for the grand final. Kay de Bruin lines it up on pole position. Alongside him on the front row is Kilian Drumont. Then next up on the head of row 2 is Jose Serrano, and he has got Angel Enestrosa for company alongside. Then it is Valerio Gallo. He's P5 on the grid, the Italian driver, just in front of Takuma Sasaki. Next up, Pole Eura, man who's needs to turn his fortunes around after a difficult Berlin, with Takuma Miyazono alongside. Completing the top 10 is Canada's Samuel Cardinal with Guy Barbara for company. And then next up you've got Adriano Carrazza in P11, and completing the grid is Thomas Labusle, who had some problems in qualifying. He was some 3 seconds off the pace. Now, this being a sprint race, no need to worry about tyres, no need to worry about fuel. It is flat out from lights out to the checkered flag, and it's anybody's guess as to how this will work out.
And it all starts down to turn 1, a downhill braking zone into turn 1. You'll use all the runoff that you possibly can over the curb on the exit, but then it sets up a long back straightaway here on the Watkins Glen long course. One of those beautiful racetracks in all of North America. Historic, it's a beautiful place to be, and it's an awesome place to race. Super high speed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What about Kilian Drumont? What can he do there on the far right-hand side of your picture? Currently 7th in the standings, with just 2 points on the board so far this season. Good opportunity for him to try and turn things around. Likewise, there is Takuma Miyazono. He's currently P5 with just 4 points out of a possible 12 he could have scored so far this season. Their opportunity really does knock for some drivers, and this is the first test of things, because as we said, this will determine that grid for the grand final. We're ready to go racing though for the sprint race of the Nations Cup here in LA as we get racing underway at Watkins Glen, and Kay de Bruin leads the field across the timing line and down towards the first corner. Drumont, Serrano, Enestrosa all in tow behind. Into turn 1, it's not a particularly heavy braking zone, so no dive bomb moves into there. You've got to set it up quite nicely though as we then begin to start opening up the lap, and now we'll see the drivers following in the slipstream behind, just waiting for that right opportunity to try and pounce.
And as you go through those S's, as you're following our driver, you can lose a sight a little bit, so you got to make sure you're hitting your marks correctly as we go here into the chicane a little bit. And this is a barely slow down with the grip that this thing makes here. Then as we head towards the boot, down into the extended portion of the Watkins Glen course, it starts to get into some real flowing corners.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You can see Kilian Drumont all over the back of Kay de Bruin. As we come through this left-hander here, you can hear the tyres chirruping in pain as we come down in towards the final part of this lap. A long, lazy hairpin as we come through there, and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting to get on the power as we blast it on to the start-finish straight. You've got to be a bit careful about taking too many liberties through there. You run it wide, you'll end up with the curb on the outside, possibly the wall as well. Now, here's Kay de Bruin, and he's in a bit of a disadvantage because, of course, he doesn't have a slipstream. He's the one in front, punching the hole in the air. Kilian Drumont has got the advantage of that slipstream. Can he use it to his benefit, though?
Going through turn 9, one of the slowest corners on the entire racetrack right there. Then head towards turn 10, a quick left-hander that sets up in the final corner back on the front straightaway. And you can see how flowing this race course is. You don't slow down often. That makes passing hard. You're going to try and pass into turn 1 as we head down towards that. Or it was back there, turn 7. Drumont goes all the way to the outside here. Can he get there? Not quite, just showing his nose a little bit, but that's the thing. You're going to try, if you can, get a good run off the final corner to get to the inside to turn 1.
Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because he didn't have a particularly bad run off the final corner for Kilian Drumont there, but you can see there, it's left him a little bit vulnerable here to the attack of Jose Serrano and for Angel Enestrosa. But the slipstream, it's effective, but it's clearly not that effective to just blast past. It's not a particularly long straight, is it? Kilian Drumont sort of moves out as we come in towards this bus stop chicane. They ride the curb over there, and you can see the car sort of chirruping over the curbs there. Looks relatively compliant.
And when you hit those curbs, in real life, it knocks your head around in the car and it sort of disorients you a little bit. Here, you're just trying to use every bit of racetrack that you can get away without going over track limits through that section, and now you head down towards turn 7 here, the toe of what we call the boot at the Watkins Glen long course. So it looks a bit like a boot in some respects, and now headed to what I think is the other passing zone down into turn 8, the heel of the boot.
If that's a boot, what shape are your feet? So that's what I want.
I don't know. It's what they call it. They call it forever as long as I've ever gone there. I'm not really sure. I've looked at it. It sort of looks like a boot, maybe.
Yeah, okay, if you look at it with your eyes closed, maybe.
Yeah.
Sasaki versus Miyazono side by side through this left-hander. The two Japanese drivers giving absolutely no quarter at all here. Miyazono looking to try and repay the favour there on Takuma Sasaki, who's dropped down from 7th to 6th place rather to 7th place from where he started. So he's lost one position, possibly set to lose 2, maybe even 3, because Guy Barbara is right in the wheel tracks of the two Japanese drivers. Miyazono pulls to the inside, but has got the advantage. Guy Barbara with an 8 lunge. That's a bit aggressive and a bit of a mistake, I feel, that he tried to turn into an overtake. He was just a bit of a day late and $1 short on the brakes there. Thankfully, he managed to avoid any serious contact.
And the problem with that move is that when you try to go to the inside there into turn ones, we're seeing a battle for the lead. Drumont's down to the inside.
We're going to be 3 wide here.
Oh yeah, this is tight.
Drumont then, it is through into the lead ahead of Jose Serrano. Oh, someone's well off in the back. That's Gallo, who's entered into a different postcode by the looks of things. He fired himself off into the barrier right down the order, and that is pretty much a disaster there for Valerio Gallo, because that's going to give him the mother and father of jobs to do going into that grand final from the back.
Got a real tall task to make that back up, and that can happen down there when you get side by side into the bus stop chicane. Something's got to give. You've got to get single file before you turn in, or you leave yourself at risk of firing off to the outside like he did there.
So Drummond is that lead, Serrano in second, Inestrosa in third, and that's the thing you can see in this race. One mistake and you are going to be so punished so heavily, because you could lose not only time but also 3, maybe 4 places potentially if you run it a little bit wide in a certain corner, or you make a mistake and you end up firing it off into the barrier like Valerio Gallo. It can get even worse than that, to be honest with you.
Right, and now as they go through here to the second final corner and into the final corner, you want to make sure you get the best run you can out of here to not leave yourself horrible into turn 1. And we saw it earlier, if you go to the inside, you run the risk of getting a bad exit. That leads onto the long back straightaway, which is basically through the S's flat out, and therefore you're giving up loads of time if you go to the inside here and don't complete the pass.
Inestrosa was having a look to the inside there of Jose Serrano down into the first corner. Nothing doing for him on that occasion, but Drummond now is in the lead of this one, and you wonder if he will be able to pull out an advantage, but it's so difficult to do so. As you can see, he's just a couple of tenths in front of Jose Serrano. Serrano looking to try and attack as they come in towards the bus stop, which you can make a move through there, but it's not the easiest part of the circuit to do so. You can see it's very tight, very narrow in particular, and you have to ride a lot of curbs. If you make a bit of a meal of it, you'll see what happened to Valerio Gallo, where you end up facing the scenery. Let's have a look at what happened then. So we're here with Kai de Bruyne. He made a bit of a mistake through the first couple of corners.
Got a little wide there on the X of the S's, and once you do that, it leaves you completely vulnerable down here. He gets overtaken by 3 cars from that mistake, because that's basically a straightaway. When you leave turn 1 all the way to the bus stop, you've got to treat it like a straightaway. Any check up in your speed, you're going to pay the price.
Jose Serrano was threading the eye of a needle through there. He's going to try and get 2 places for the price of 1. Meanwhile, Jura here versus Kai de Bruyne. They're banging sort of bodywork there as they come through the right-hander, and side by side they sit still between the two of them. De Bruyne's lost 4 places from where he started. He was on pole position, if you remember, and he's on a trajectory that's seeing him go backwards in this race. He tries to retaliate on the attack against Pol Jura, but that might leave him vulnerable to the charge of Sasaki and Miyazono, who are right in his wheel tracks here.
That was very messy in some respects, but Pol Jura was able to make it work to his advantage. He got very loose there out of 8, then towards 9 was able to gather up, was played defensive and held on to the spot as they head down to turn 1.
Yeah, through that first corner we go. Lap 5 out of 13. Still plenty of time left in this race for the complexion of it to change. Angel Inestrosa kept his powder pretty dry over the course of the first portion of this race for now. And you can see as we make our way through this right-hander, I've just had a look at the tyre usage requirement. Now we are actually going to require a pit stop in this race, so that's a bit of a unique thing
but
here.
You don't need to change a set of tires. You can, but it adds 6 seconds to the pit stop essentially, so it's a mandatory pit stop, but you don't have to change tires.
Right, interesting. So that's going to make things particularly exciting, one would imagine there, because say if you don't change your tyres, then obviously you gain a bit of time in terms of track position then, in theory. Let's have a look at what happened to Valerio Gallo while we're figuring all that out. He just got a bit too much curve on the bit too much curve on the inside, and that just sent him straight to the scene of the crash, basically, on the barrier. So an unforced error for Valerio Gallo there, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll see how the strategy for the pits is going to work out for this one, as Kylian Drummond has got Jose Serrano and Angel Inestrosa still very close for company behind. But I have to say, they're being all pretty well behaved at this point.
Yeah, but Serrano keeps looking to the inside, occasionally down into turn 1, just sort of peeking that nose out a little bit. Once again, again sending a message. We saw this in the Manufacturers Cup earlier tonight. Drivers who are just trying to show that, hey, I'm here, I can make this move if I want to, but I'm choosing not to at this time. We're almost working together to try and maximize lap time this time.
Okay, so we have to make one pit stop then in this race. It's mandatory, but you don't have to change tyres. Laboutelet's decided to do that at the end of lap 5, the beginning of lap 6. I was just about to ask, how do you decide when to make those pit stops here? And you know, how does your strategy work out? Do you decide to get it out of the way early and hope that you get a bit of clear air? Because if that doesn't work out and you end up right on the back of somebody, it can cost you time and then ultimately cost you the position that you were fighting for pre-pit stop.
I assume some of the mid-pack would probably be the first to pit road for that exact reason, getting to clear air, start to rip some really fast lap times, whereas these leaders here who sort of find themselves getting away from the mid-pack are going to utilize this time to feel like they're drafting, they're making up some good lap time at this point, as long as the tires hold on.
Look at Jose Serrano, who's all over the back of Kylian Drumont like a cheap suit here as we come through this left-hander. Just no room for him to use that extra momentum that he's got. And to be honest, I don't think he's particularly that bothered at this point. We're only at the halfway stage now of this race. There's so much time for him to think about where he's going to be making those moves. And you don't want to do anything too rash because it can cost you a lot more than you'd be set to gain.
He got pretty sideways there out of turn 8, so just managing the rear tires, you're starting to see them sort of give out a little bit sort of wear at this point in time. This car really hurts those rear tires for sure, especially out of here, is that you're just putting a lot of energy and stress through that right rear tire. You see Jose Serrano get a little bit sideways as the exit.
That's a shame for Paul Ura. He's picked up a 1-second penalty for colliding with another car. That's going to drop him down behind De Bruyne for certain, possibly behind Sasaki. Let's have a look at the battle though for the lead as they all come and filter into the pit lane. I thought that might be the case. It's a case of follow the leader. One blinks, they all blink because they just want to maintain track position. They're sort of forcing their hand really there, aren't they?
Yeah, you're basically saying, hey, we're all just going to do this in lockstep and now try to race it out on the racetrack, not trying to use a different strategy at that point and thinking this is probably the fastest time to do this race.
Can Laboutelet and Gallo try and take profit? Because they pitted a bit earlier on in this one. As you can see, nobody's changing tyres in particular there. As you can see, they're staying on the soft tyres. Not really much point about it. Out of the pit lane we go. Let's have a look at Laboutelet. Where's he emerging? Because he's at racing speed and his tyres, of course, will be up to temperature. They won't have dropped off. So he's now back in the race and he's in 8th position. So it's worked out okay there for Thomas Laboutelet. He's right in the thick of the action. He'll be there ready to try and take profit. Meanwhile, at the sharp end of this one, Serrano versus Drumont. We come down in towards this chicane. Serrano's got the inside line. He's got track position. And now he's got P2. Lovely stuff.
Really nice pass. That was beautiful down there into the bus stop. Drumont played it correctly. You got to just give and take a little bit down in that corner. And going side by side just slows you up so much, especially at this point of the race. Out of the pits, you just want to try and maximize lap time. You don't want to give anything up.
Yeah, it's worked really nicely here for Angelo Nestroza. He's now in the lead of this race by 4 seconds. As you can see, he's got a nice comfortable cushion. He's made his mandatory pit stop and he's cleared off into the distance. Ura's about to serve that 1-second penalty, but given how close the field is out on track, so actually the drivers did change tyres in that one. I wonder whether they would or they wouldn't. So Nestroza, that's why he's now in the lead. So
he's the one.
Yeah, he's the only one who didn't change the tyres, and that's going to leave him quite vulnerable, you would imagine, because 4 seconds? It's an advantage, but it's not exactly insurmountable.
Let's see. We'll see if that plays out for them. This is just different strategies that we have seen here before in terms of the Gran Turismo World Series, trying to utilize these different rules to your advantage. We'll see if Jose Serrano's got the speed to start and run him down. Right now, just looking at Nestroza's tires, they're not terrible considering the amount of laps that he has on them, but it's going to be about maximizing his lap time right now.
On board here with Takuma Miyazono, P6 for the Japanese driver at the moment, down the start-finish straight and in towards the first turn. Nice and neat and tidy for him. Cardinals just serving, lost the position there to Valerio Gallo, who's trying to fight back after that earlier trip to the barrier. Ura with that penalty dropped down to 7th position, but he's only about a second or so off, so he's still pretty much within slipstreaming range. If he can put together a couple of clean laps, he might be able to get himself onto the back of Takuma Miyazono. The win probably is going to be a little bit out of question, but we'll see how it works out for him. Meanwhile, Nestroza and Serrano, the gap now from 3.7 seconds down to just 3 seconds. So that's nearly a second or so that the prevailing field have managed to close up over the course of this lap. Might leave Nestroza, and probably will leave him quite vulnerable at the end of this one.
It's going to come down to Kenny Block. Kenny Block, how's it going to time out? Most likely, just looking at the timing here, they are definitely going to catch him with at least a lap, maybe 2 or so to go.
Paul Ura and Thomas Laboutelet under investigation for a collision there as well. So we'll see how that one has all worked out. They're in 7th and 8th place there, respectively. Ura in front of Laboutelet. So obviously they came to blows at some point out on the circuit over the course of the last lap, and we'll see whether the stewards decide to hit them with a penalty.
And one thing Jose Serrano's liking is behind him as he's gapping there to Drummond a little bit as he continues to increase that gap. That's going to give him options when he catches Inestrosa to have some options to not have to protect at the same time that he's trying to be on offense when he's trying to get by Inestrosa. So as he continues to gap the drivers behind him, that's helping him out. It's hurting Inestrosa. He would hope that they would get to them and be racing each other closely.
Just to give you an idea of the difference in pace, we can see the gaps now come down to 1.6 seconds between Inestrosa and Serrano. Last time around for Inestrosa a 1:31.3, Serrano a 1:29.6. So getting on for near enough 2 seconds faster than the leader. It is a case of when and not if. With 3.5 laps remaining of this one, Inestrosa is going to be a bit of a sitting duck in this race. I mean, he's made 3 positions up from where he qualified, which is great news for him, but you can see how close the field is, and also all the drivers, as we know, they're all on fresh soft tyres, so it's now a case of damage limitation here for Angel Inestrosa.
He's running for his life right now. For everything he's got, he's pushing as hard as he can to try and just continue to keep this gap as much as he can. He knows Jose Serrano's going to get there, but the question is, when he does he choose to sort of just let him go and try to maximize the time loss here instead of trying to hold him off and sort of slow him up and allow Drummond and the cars behind to get to him there? That's going to be a choice he's going to have to make and almost time this out when Jose Serrano gets to him.
So then, through the left-hander we go in towards the final couple of corners on this circuit. Serrano sitting there in second position. Inestrosa in the lead of this race, now down to half a second. So Serrano is going to be right on his gearbox through this final corner, and you would imagine planning a move down in towards the first turn as well. On board we ride here with then Jose Serrano. He's got the advantage of the slipstream. He'll have a lot more grip under braking there as well. He doesn't decide to lunge it down into T1. It's a risky one there because you can see it's quite tight and there's a big curve on the outside of it. So you would imagine a good run through these S-bends and in towards the chicane will be where Serrano will try to launch that attack. In the slipstream he is then. He's closing up onto the back of Inestrosa, and it's going to be easy pickings here for Jose Serrano as they draw alongside one another into the bus stop chicane. Serrano goes through and into the race lead once again.
And that was the best case scenario for Inestrosa there, to have him pass down the straightaway into the bus stop. There's the least amount of time lost going side by side. Now he's going to do his best to try and hold off Drummond.
Yeah, I can imagine that is going to be a particularly difficult task, as well as there for Kai de Bruyne, who might be able to try and take profit if Drummond does get held up there behind Inestrosa. He's got the inside line, and look at that. That was decisive and clinical for Drummond. Oh, and de Bruyne's walking through. The door's kind of half ajar, and he just said, look, I've got to make as much ground as I can, and he's threw it into third position, looking to try and launch that attack there on Drummond into the right-hander, but the door not quite ajar enough for de Bruyne to launch an attack into that next right-hander. Through to the left we go then. Serrano now leads, and all the while they were stuck behind. Inestrosa. He's now dropped down to 5th place, by the way. It's costing them a bit of time, and you can see the gap now for Jose Serrano. He's built that up to over a second.
Yeah, he was really able to pull the vault away, and they were sort of caught up here as we go on board with Mollura.
We're going to see the 2 Japanese drivers, Miyazono and Sasaki, have a bit of a tete-a-tete through the left-hander, I think, and it sends Sasaki into the wall, and Yura takes profit of it and slides himself up into 6th place.
He said, thank you very much.
Yeah, nice and easily done. Yeah, they're under investigation for one another as well. I should imagine they won't be on each other's Christmas cards list after that one. Cardinal's gone for an interesting 2-stop strategy, but he's having a bit of a dog's day at the office right down at the bottom of the field, so there's no harm in trying a bit of a gamble here in this race. Through the bus stop we go, though, with Kylian Drummond. Kai de Bruyne there in 3rd position, and look at this, Takuma Miyazono right on his back bumper here. And let's see whether the Japanese driver, the 4-time world champion, is going to be able to launch an attack. It looks like Sam Cardinal's retired from this race, the Canadian driver. Whether he's got some technical problems, I don't know. But either way, for him, it has not worked out at all. And he'll be starting that grand final right from the very back of the grid, unfortunately.
Takuma's looking for the run here, down into turn 8, just hoping to have a little bit of momentum, maybe try to set up from the final corner down into turn 1. We've seen that move be attempted a couple times, or hold back and try to use it down into the bus stop. If you're keeping up with Inestrosa, who qualified 4th for this race, not the no tire strategy, he's all the way back to 8th.
No Christmas card, but
here as we go on board with Mollura.
We're going to see the 2 Japanese drivers, Miyazono and Sasaki, have a bit of a tete-a-tete through the left-hander, I think, and it sends Sasaki into the wall, and Yura takes profit of it and slides himself up into 6th place.
He said, thank you very much.
Yeah, nice and easily done. Yeah, they're under investigation for one another as well. I should imagine they won't be on each other's Christmas cards list after that one. Cardinal's gone for an interesting two-stop strategy, but he's having a bit of a dog's day at the office right down at the bottom of the field, so there's no harm in trying a bit of a gamble here in this race. Through the bus stop we go, though, with Kilian Drummond, Kaiderbrunn there in third position, and look at this, Takuma Miyazono right on his back bumper here. And let's see whether the Japanese driver, the four-time world champion, is going to be able to launch an attack. It looks like Sam Cardinal's retired from this race, the Canadian driver, or whether he's got some technical problems, I don't know. But either way, for him, it has not worked out at all. And he'll be starting that grand final right from the very back of the grid, unfortunately.
Takuma's looking for the run here down into turn 8, just hoping to have a little bit of momentum, maybe try to set up for the final corner down into turn 1. We've seen that move be attempted a couple times, or hold back and try to use it down into the bus stop. If you're keeping up with Inestrosa, who qualified 4th for this race, not the no tire strategy, he's all the way back to 8th right now. That has not panned out for him.
No, it's a gamble and it didn't pay off. I mean, look, he's had no points scored so far this season. He's right at the bottom of the order. Has to try something to try and get himself up there. It was a risk, and unfortunately the reward is not there for the taking. Down in 8th position as the best he can hope for as it stands for now. Meanwhile, here is Miyazono in the slipstream with Kaiderbrunn. He's got the inside line down into T1. Can he make that stick? That'll be brilliant if he can. Oh, Jura's going to walk through it as well. De Bruyn's going to get shoveled to the curb on the outside and loses 2 places in the space of 1 corner. So Miyazono and Jura are through for 3rd and 4th place now respectively. Jura on the attack against Miyazono. What a fantastic run he's had through the first couple of corners. Miyazono knows that, goes for that defensive line, and here comes De Bruyn ready to try and take profit of it as well. Through the bus of chicane, there's contact. Jura's onto the curb. De Bruyn goes back through on the inside as well. So Jura goes from attacking to defending to losing places.
What an awesome bit of battling there amongst these drivers. They played it as clean as you possibly could there. Paul Jura was trying to stay there, but he just couldn't, and at that point he couldn't get through the bus stop correctly. You're out of phase, you're out of the line, and that opened up the door for Kaiderbrunn.
Yeah, worked really nicely there for Kaiderbrunn, and he lives to fight another day. Let's see whether Jura can launch a retaliation. It's brought Labutale and Sasaki right back into play then here for this one as well. Miyazono is the man on the move there. What have we got? A lap and a half now remaining, so not much time left. At the front of this one, Jose Serrano's built out the advantage, but it's pretty much stabilised at about 1.2 seconds or so over the likes of Kilian Drummond, and subsequently then another further 1.6 seconds. He is in front of Takuma Miyazono, so maybe not a battle for the podium that we're going to see to the end of this one, but you never know. One mistake from Miyazono and it could be right up to play for again.
It was an optimistic move by De Bruyn there through turn 8. It's left him vulnerable here to Paul Jura as we go down the front stretch, as he tried to do what Miyazono did a lap before. Yes, he's looking to the inside, doesn't quite get there, thinks better of it. Now he'll try to set up for the exit and down towards the bus stop.
That was smart there from Jura. You can see what he was trying to do, just force De Bruyn to break a few metres too late, run it a bit wide, compromise his run. It didn't quite pay off for him at the moment, but there's every opportunity for them to try and take profit. Labutale's there lurking in the background as well as Takuma Sasaki. This is the final lap of action, and this is the race that will decide the grid for the grand final. No further action between Sasaki and Miyazono as they came to blows a few laps ago. They kick up grass and dust and dirt on this final lap as they are really beginning to push the limits here.
And it's really De Bruyn just trying to hold off Jura at this point right now. That the 3rd place Miyazono has been able to get just a bit far enough away that I feel like he can hold on to as long as he hits his marks through these last set of corners in this lap. But it's really a battle there for 4th. Miyazono can get, oh, let's look at the inside. De Bruyn didn't quite get there, trying everything he can.
Yeah, certainly did there, did Kaiderbrunn, but again, just pushing the limits a little bit too hard. On board here with Jura, who's got that unfortunate position of trying to attack, but also defend as well, because Labutale's there, ready to try and pounce. Just a few more corners now remaining here at Watkins Glen, unless a desperate lunge comes on the inside for Kaiderbrunn. He was trying to think about a move there, but it just wasn't ready for the taking. And I think Miyazono, if he can just hold his line and not fluff it into the final couple of corners, he'll be able to hold on to 3rd place. Meanwhile, what a drive from Jose Serrano, who comes through to take the victory in the sprint race and pole position for the grand final. He wins it here at Watkins Glen ahead of Kilian Drummond and Takuma Miyazono on the podium. Kaiderbrunn finishes in P4 ahead of Paul Jura in P5. But again, we're running out of superlatives to describe the run of form that this young man has had. Jose Serrano is on supreme form in 2025. He's won both of the grand finals, and he picks up another sprint race for his troubles as well.
Absolutely the top of his game, and you can see it in every decision making that he has, the speed obviously that he has right now, and throughout that whole race there, it was just obvious he knew when to sort of hold back and then when to try and strike. There wasn't many optimistic moves, they were decisive moves that went in his favor, and then when it was up for offering to go for the win, he was able to drive away from the field, create the gap he needed, run down Inestrosa and set sail.
Yeah, very well done to him. Commiserations though to the likes of Angel Inestrosa and also to Valerio Gallo there as well. Inestrosa tried an alternative strategy, wasn't one that paid off for him.